on the eastern coast of the Arabian Peninsula, where the endless expanses of desert meet the Indian Ocean, lies the Sultanate of Oman. Over many thousands of years, maritime trade in the ocean was dominated by the seafaring expertise of this country's people. How many people have not heard of the tale of Sinbad the Sailor? But how many people know that the legend is grounded in the seagoing adventures of the Omani folk? As early as the 8th century, Omani merchants would regularly travel across the 7 seas, from Oman as far as China, where dates would be exchanged for porcelain and silk. By the middle of the 19th century, Oman's maritime trading empire was centered on the legendary island of Zanzibar. Almost a century later, in 1970, when the 30-year-old Sultan Qaboos assumed power, an unprecedented campaign of modernization began under the young Sultan. Through targeted investment of revenues from the country's oil industry, within a few years, Oman was transformed into an attractive modern state. "90% of the country's inhabitants are of the Islamic faith. Here, the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad make up the state religion. The mosque forms an integral part of everyday life in Oman. Mosques are places of prayer, schools for religious study, places to congregate and meet together. Here we meet the companion of our journey, Juma al-Maskari. Juma's life mirrors the history of the country, situated as it is between tradition and the modern, between Arab and Western cultures. An Omani born on the island of Zanzibar, he has lived for the last 30 years in Germany, but in his heart he has always remained an Omani.
Für mich, ich kann keine Leben vorstellen ohne Religion, ohne Islam, weil der erfüllt meine Seele. Das ist für mich.
For myself, I cannot imagine a life without religion, without Islam, because it fulfills my inner spiritual needs. There is the force of habit, with the prayer times, and this need for inner peace, and to be able to switch off. If you miss a prayer, you really feel deep down that you've missed something spiritual. Since time immemorial, followers of the most varied branches of the Muslim faith have lived peacefully alongside one another in Oman. The majority of Oman's Muslims are neither Sunni nor Shiite, but Ibadi. This religious persuasion is widely unknown, not only in the Western, but also in the Islamic world. The philosophy of the Ibadis is founded on the principle of religious tolerance and the avoidance of conflict and violence. In the country's mosques, Sunnis and Shiites pray alongside Ibadis as a matter of course. The communal prayer to God recognizes no theological dispute. Before God, each individual must answer for himself. You can even recognize Ibadis by their posture. When at prayer, they let their arms hang at their sides. After prayer, the children of Oman gather in the Quran school. Here, they not only learn the Quran by heart, but also an interpretation of the Quran suited to modern times. This lays a foundation for Islam to remain in the future the basis of life in a modern world. Teaching the literary qualities of the Arabic language, along with everything from good behavior to moral values, also forms an important part of the Quran school's curriculum. The country's largest mosque stands here in Muscat. The Sultan Qaboos Mosque will accommodate up to 20,000 believers. 6 times a week, in the morning, the mosque is open to non-Muslims, who are requested to observe the rules regarding modest dress and are free to explore this architectural masterpiece. There are prejudices equating Islam with fundamentalism or even terrorism, but these are of course false. The vast majority of Muslims are peaceful, with only a tiny fraction who indulge in extremism. May I ask you a question? You've just been making a video. What's your impression? It's super, just fantastic. What's it like to be here in this traditional... It's a bit too long, but otherwise super. The Ministry of Endowments and Religious Affairs in Oman oversees all religious communities, and it encourages dialogue and discussion among the various religions, with the aim of raising awareness of the ethics, morality, and sense of justice which they have in common. Not only Muslims live in Oman. Many guest workers from the Far East, India or Europe are followers of other religions. As a result of the Ibadi principle of religious tolerance, both in the past and also today, they have never been discriminated against. Today, the state guarantees the free practice of religion. It is forbidden to proselytize, even for Muslim believers. As a result, the most varied religions can be found in Muscat, the capital of the country. Here, Catholics, Protestants, Hindus, Copts, Buddhists and Orthodox Christians can be found at prayer next door to one another.
Good evening, my dear brothers and sisters. Good evening. One God forever and ever.
Here we have a very good freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of thoughts. It's one of the best nations among the GCC which I have found. I have traveled across Europe, US, and being an Indian, experienced Christianity in India also, but I find here it's very liberal and very...
Open country here,
yeah,
open country, not same
nice
as...
here. It's an open country.
Open country.
Yeah, it's very nice here and peaceful.
Ah.
Yeah.
Every Friday we come here, every Friday. So some people, they come every day.
On Fridays, most believers gather here. In Oman, Friday is the day of rest and relaxation, the equivalent of Sunday in the Christian world.
Let us bow our heads, close our eyes, and look to our prayer-answering, miracle-working, only living God in prayer. Lord Jesus, we come to you with an evening's blessing to seal within our hearts the inspirations and memories of this day. Today does not look any different than yesterday. Our circumstances have not changed, but slowly and surely your word is taking root in our hearts, and in it we have confident rest.
You know, one of the amazing things for me as an American is that the people celebrate Christmas, and actually we can go out to the hospitals with a choir and sing Christian Christmas carols. We can't do that in the United States. You know, in the schools, they talk about Christmas, they have Christmas programs. In the United States, we have holiday programs. We can't even have Christmas programs. So, I mean, in some ways, here we are in a Muslim country, and we have as much freedom, and in some areas, actually more freedom than we have in our own country.
Right next door, the largest religious community apart from the Muslims, the Hindus, gather for prayers.
Yeah, because it is very friendly. The people here are very hospitable. They are very friendly to Indian people. The culture here is a mixed culture. They respect other countries' culture also.
No, actually the freedom for everything, actually the religious freedom, anything. You know, the freedom is there, I think, more than other Gulf countries. Yeah.
Kann man sich das in Deutschland vorstellen?
Can you imagine such a situation in Germany?
Das kann mir nicht vorstellen.
No, I can't imagine it.
Hindus
and all Orthodox persuasions, Protestants and Catholics, all within an area of perhaps a quarter of a kilometre. Where else in the world can you find that? It's policy here that all other religions have the possibility to satisfy their needs, through their feelings, through religious ritual, the right to practice their religion without compulsion or fear. The widespread negative attitude toward Islam in the Western world is often based on pictures of women behind veils, which trigger feelings of vague unease. They cannot be seen through, and we automatically assume the women must be oppressed and lacking in rights. But Islamic dress is not necessarily a sign of oppression. Women's contribution to the building of a modern state in the Sultanate is every bit as important as that of men.
Actually, we're pretty relaxed with the rules here in Oman. We don't. You might see it as restrictions, but actually, it's not a restriction to us. We are relaxed with the way we are living. A woman is as free as man in everything she does and any job she takes. So that's the thing.
You can choose whatever you want.
Yeah, I can choose whatever I want to do. If you take a look, you can see soldiers who are women. A policewoman, we have 3 ministers currently. So I believe women has an equal right as men here in Oman.
You agree?
Yeah, sure. We have the freedom of speech. We can talk anytime we want.
And you can wear what you want, or is it just?
Yeah, we can wear what we want. But as a Muslim, we wear the full dress like a scarf and sometimes we wear abaya.
No, it's not actually a strictly religious clothes. You can wear whatever you want. We have certain rules that it doesn't show a lot of your body as a woman. But other than that, we have the freedom to wear whatever we want. It depends from one place to another. For example, if we went for trips, campings, we wear jeans and maybe jogging shoes, any normal, except the scarf. We usually wear scarves. That's the only difference. But abayas and traditional clothes, it's just something that is our own choice to wear.
If you want to experience the roots of Islam in Oman, you have to leave the capital and travel to the country's interior. The Hajar Mountains tower up directly behind the coastline. Countless old villages and forts bear witness to the living conditions that prevailed here only 40 years ago. It is said that the first Omani who took up Islam was a certain Mazin bin Gaduba from Samail here in the Hajar Mountains. He had heard of Muhammad and his teachings, and as a result had ridden direct to Medina to meet the Prophet. He was converted, came back to Oman, and began to preach to the people of his region. According to legend, this mosque in Samail is the oldest in the land. It has recently been completely renovated. Not far from the mosque, the grave of Oman's first Muslim believer can be found. A little later, the ruler of Oman and other sections of the population joined the faith. When the Prophet Muhammad heard of this, he is said to have said, "God bless the people of Oman. They believe in me without having once seen me." Midday is the time for the dur, the midday prayer. Whenever a group of believers gather together in a mosque, they are led by an imam, a so-called prayer leader. He does not have to have had, as so often assumed, a special theological training. He is simply the first among equals. The Quran imposes the duty to pray a total of 5 times in a day. If one is prevented from praying at the set time, one can catch up with a prayer at a later time. When traveling, 2 prayers can be said one after the other at one time. What is special is that each individual prayer must be led by a different imam or prayer leader from the same congregation.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Here in Oman,
if you work in a company, for the ministry or in a school, are you able to take time out for prayer? Yes, you're given the time. Mostly at midday, when there is a break, and then you can quickly get yourself something to eat, or you can quickly go to pray. One of the advantages of prayers being 5 times a day is that you can take a step back from the everyday world and dedicate yourself spiritually for this 5 or 10 minutes of prayer without thinking of work or the stock market or the children. Prayer takes you out of the mundane world and allows you to switch off.
اللهم صل وسلم على حبيبك محمد رسول الله.
Spiritual leaders and expounders of Ibadi teaching, with its doctrine of non-violence, have their roots here in Nizwa. Today, the town is still the religious center of the country. Here in the former fort, one meets not only tourists, but also many locals and school groups. This is often an opportunity to strike up a conversation, and for them to try out the English they have learned.
Can you explain me what is the situation of the woman in Oman compared to other countries, to Arabic countries?
Arabian or the world countries?
Maybe the Arabian country first.
I think in Oman we are having our rights because His Majesty is supporting us a lot, and we have our education. I have studied in university. Our life is good, really.
Yeah, what kind of rights do you have compared to other countries?
Comparing to other countries, we have the right to vote. I can vote. I have the right to choose the one that I want to marry.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think we are doing the things that we like, and we are happy. The most essential thing here that we are happy really with what we have.
Back to Muscat, where there is the possibility to take part in an Islamic wedding ceremony. The wedding guests first gather in the mosque for communal prayers. Before the wedding ceremony begins, frankincense is burned on glowing coals in the banquet hall. The fragrant clouds plunge the room in a ceremonial atmosphere. Then, the father and brother of the groom greet the wedding guests. They have all come from far off and often haven't seen one another for years. What is special and particularly unusual for us is that traditional Islamic weddings are celebrated separately by men and women.
أما بعد فإني أشهدكم أيتها الجماعة الحاضرون فاشهدوا علي بأني قد زوجت محمد بن عبد الله بن حميد الطوقي هذا بحبيبة بنت خالد بن خلفان الجابرية زوجة لك على الشروط والصداق المتفق عليه بينكما وقبلت لها على نفسك بجميع ذلك. قل نعم قد قبلت حبيبة بنت خالد بن خلفان الجابرية زوجة لي على الشروط والصداق.
hat zuerst gepredigt, dass die Ehe ist es eine
He first preached that marriage is a holy union, exactly as with Christianity, that the man and woman should remain together through good times and through bad times. Each must respect the other. Marriage is holy. The man must respect the woman, look after her, and provide for her.
Und sie auch ernähren.
We are astonished by the perfect organization, how quickly the food is served. In 3 hours, the wedding will be all over for the more than 300 guests. They make the most of the time to exchange the latest personal news with one another.
Wo sind die Frauen?
Where are the women?
Die Frauen sind zu Hause.
The women are at home.
Wie feiern die?
How do they celebrate?
Die Frauen feiern getrennt.
Women celebrate apart from the men.
Feiern jetzt hier
The men are celebrating here now. The religious wedding ceremony has been completed today, and now they are man and wife. The groom will either now be brought to where the women are celebrating, and then they celebrate together, or he may come at the end of the evening to collect his bride.
Dann feiern der Braut und Bräutigam zusammen, beide Frauen, und dann am Ende des Abends kann seine Frau nehmen.
In the Christian Coptic Church, the sexes are also kept separate, with the women standing or sitting on one side and the men on the other.
We are in Oman from 1971, 71 onwards. We have around 3,000 members are there. Then their children, wife, all together, around 5,000 members are there. We have memberships here.
Growing? Is it growing?
It's growing, it's growing. Yeah, we are very free, and I take this opportunity to thank the Sultan because he's very free will.
No pressure?
No pressures, nothing, and there's a lot of freedom for every religion, I hope so. It's a very great blessing by him that we can worship very freely here.
As soon as the sun sets in the evening, it is once more time for prayer. Mostly men attend the evening prayers. Women usually pray at this time at home with their children.
I saw many men praying, but I never saw a woman. What are the rules?
The prayer rules apply to both men and women alike. There is no law which prohibits women from praying in the mosque. It's simply because of domestic responsibilities that women cannot easily attend services at the mosque several times a day. And of course, during prayers, we do not wish to be observed by the men. That's why at most mosques, there's a women's section that men are not allowed in.
And are you praying 5 times a day?
Yes, of course. I try as much as I can to keep 5 prayers. No, it's we're raised on it, so it's not very difficult for us. But some people, they're not in their houses, and it is a challenge sometimes, especially when you're traveling, to keep the times, and because you have to do them at special times. And but I think it's wonderful to have that 5 minutes, 10 minutes break in that, your busy life, to just pray and meditate and think about your life. And this is our living room. This is where we usually sit. We have the television, the computer, and so this is where we mostly sit down and gather as a family.
You have some friends from different religions? I mean,
yes, I do.
Do you see any different? I mean, in the belief and.
Well, it depends on the person, I think, because in the Western world there are lots of schools of thought when it comes to religion. Not all Christians are the same. Some are very strict, some are not. But usually, when we speak together, we try to not talk about these things and focus on the similarities that we have as people, because I think that there are a lot of similar aspects. But here in Oman, we try to keep that balance between religion, culture, and staying modern and staying in the modern world. And I'm happy. I'm very grateful for that.
The Friday prayer services are the most important prayer services of the week. Every time I come back to Oman, it is Friday which is a great highlight. The prayers take place in the Great Mosque, where people come together from the whole region. First comes a sermon, then the prayers, and then one meets up with people one hasn't seen in a long time. The Imam is not only the prayer leader, but also the one who gives the Friday sermons on a specific predetermined topic. Today, after he has welcomed the congregation, his topic will be life after death.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wal aqibatu lil muttaqin, wa la udwana illa ala al-zalimin, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah, wahdahu la sharika lah. Allahu Akbar. سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
اللهم صل وسلم على حبيبك محمد. اللهم صل.
The Sultanate sets itself demands for the future like almost no other Arab state. It is making its own way into the 21st century with the self-assurance of a state which is conscious of its great past as a seafaring nation. Oman is a living demonstration that modernization and progress in the Arab world do not have to go hand in hand with loss of religious and cultural identity. Religion and the modern are not mutually exclusive, but together are preparing the ground for a future of hope and peace.
اللهم صل وسلم على حبيبك محمد. اللهم صل وسلم على حبيبك محمد. محمد رسول الله. أنت شمس أنت بدر أنت نور فوق نور.